All right, get ready because this deep dive, well, it's a weird one.
It is a strange one.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at a YouTube video.
Okay.
And this YouTube video analyzes another YouTube video
Mm-hmm.
about a document that's just Poopoo Peepee.
Interesting.
That's all it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
And so this video is trying to find meaning in this document.
Okay.
So I thought it would be fun to look at this video and see what they came up with.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, so...
I got to say, I was pretty skeptical
Oh, yeah.
going into this whole thing.
Same here.
Yeah.
Like, when I first heard about this, I was just like, this has got to be a joke.
Yeah.
But then, you start thinking about it, and you're like, well...
Yeah, you get curious.
Is there actually something here?
Right.
Is there some meaning to this?
Like, is this some kind of, like, deep philosophical statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just pure absurdity?
Right. And I think that's what's so fascinating about the human brain. Like,
Yeah.
we're always trying to find patterns.
There.
And we're always trying to find meaning.
Even when there is none.
Even when it's just Poopoo Peepee over and over again.
Wow. Right.
So in the video, they come up with a few different interpretations.
Okay.
For this document, one of the first ones is that maybe this is some kind of lost language.
A lost language?
Yeah.
But, I mean, language has to be complex.
Yeah. It has to have rules and structures.
Right. It needs grammar and syntax.
And, like, different ways to convey subtleties of meaning. Yeah.
And Poopoo Peepee doesn't really have that.
No.
It's a little too simple.
Yeah, like you can only get so far with just those two words. So that one kind of falls apart pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then they're like, well, maybe it's a code.
A secret code.
Yeah, like maybe Poopoo Peepee stands for something else.
Like an acronym.
Yeah, or like each repetition, signifies a different letter or something.
The cipher.
Yeah, but the problem is we don't have the key to the code.
We're missing the key.
So we're just kind of left guessing.
It's all just speculation at that point.
Yeah, like it's fun to think about, but we don't really have any way to prove it.
No.
So then they move on to another interpretation, and this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, I think.
Okay.
So they're like, well, what if the meaning isn't in the words themselves,
Okay.
but in the repetition?
Ah, the repetition.
Yeah, so they start talking about things like mantras
Oh, okay.
or lullabies.
Okay.
Things that use repetition to kind of like...
Soothe you.
Yeah, or to get you into a certain state of mind.
Yeah, like you think about a jingle that gets stuck in your head. Even if you don't like the product.
It's like you can't get it out. Or if you're trying to memorize something.
Right, you repeat it over and over.
Yeah, like a speech or a
Oh,
poem.
no, really.
So they're saying that maybe this Poopoo Peepee document is working in a similar way.
Interesting.
Like it's tapping into something.
Primal in
Yeah.
our brains.
That's beyond like conscious thought.
Right.
And that maybe the repetition itself...
Is what's important.
Yeah.
Not the actual word.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
And that kind of leads into another interpretation they bring up, which is this idea of sound-based art.
Okay.
Like they compare it to earworms.
Oh, yeah.
Those songs that you just get stuck in your head.
But you can't get rid of them.
And you're like, why am I even thinking about this song?
Exactly.
But it's just there.
And, maybe our brains are rebelling against the meaninglessness
Yeah.
of Poopoo Peepee, so they try to make meaning where there is none.
Oh, that's a good point.
A fascinating paradox.
Yeah, because our brains are always looking for those patterns.
Always.
They're always trying to make connection.
Like we're hardwired for it.
And then they bring up another interpretation, which I think is also really interesting.
Okay.
They say that maybe it's provocative art.
Provocative art.
Yeah, like maybe it's intentionally absurd.
To make us think.
Yeah, to challenge our ideas about what art is.
Like daddyism.
Yeah.
They were all about absurdity.
And nonsense.
To disrupt the art world.
Yeah, like think about Duchamp's fountain.
A urinal as art.
Right, like that was scandalous at the time.
It was.
But it made people think differently about art.
It challenged the status quo.
And what if this Poopoo Peepee document is doing the same thing?
Interesting.
Like it's making us question our assumptions about meaning and purpose.
It's like those people who wear mismatched socks.
Yeah.
Just to be different.
It's like a little rebellion.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not playing by your rules.
I like that.
So even if there isn't like one right answer to this Poopoo Peepee mystery,
Okay.
the YouTubers are saying that just the act of analyzing it is valuable.
It's a mental exercise.
Yeah.
To get us thinking.
It's like a puzzle.
Right.
But a puzzle with no solution.
But the journey is what matters.
Right. And in a world where we're just constantly bombarded with information.
Yeah, we're drowning in it.
It's important to be able to think critically,
Absolutely.
to question things.
To not just take everything at face value.
Yeah, and this Poopoo Peepee document, it's like, it's making us do that.
It's forcing us to think for ourselves.
Yeah.
To dig deeper.
It's like a mental palate cleanser.
I love that analogy.
It's like clearing out all the junk.
All the noise.
Yeah.
And making room for something new.
And that's actually a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's more to this Poopoo Peepee thing than just mental gymnastics.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
We've just scratched the surface here.
Can't wait to dive deeper.
We'll be right back after the break.
So we've gone through lost languages, secret codes, provocative art. I mean, it's incredible how much we've been able to pull from just Poopoo Peepee.
Yeah, it really shows you how powerful the human mind is. Like,
Yeah.
we're always looking for meaning.
Even when there isn't any.
Right, even when it's absurd.
But why is that?
Well, you know, our brains are wired to look for patterns.
Okay.
It's how we make sense of the world.
All right.
And it's probably rooted in our evolution.
Our evolution. Yeah, you think about our ancestors, like way back when.
Okay.
The ones who were good at spotting patterns,
Yeah.
they were the ones who survived.
Like they could see a predator hiding or find food more easily.
Exactly. They could connect the dots and predict what was going to happen.
So we've inherited that same wiring.
We have. It's in our DNA.
So even though this Poopoo Peepee document is totally nonsensical, our brains are still trying to figure it out.
They're looking for that pattern.
Just like our ancestors would have looked for patterns in the rustling leaves or the movement of animals.
That's a great way to put it.
But what happens when our brains encounter something that just doesn't make sense?
Like Poopoo Peepee.
Yeah, like it throws a wrench in the whole system.
It does. It disrupts our expectations.
And maybe that's not a bad thing.
Right. Because that discomfort that we feel, that can actually lead to growth.
You know, it's funny you should say that because one of the interpretations from the video was this idea of Poopoo Peepee as a mental palate cleanser.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's like in a world that's just overflowing with information.
And opinions and agendas.
Sometimes you just need to hit the reset button.
A little absurdity can be refreshing.
It's like taking a break from all the seriousness.
Exactly.
And just allowing yourself to play with ideas.
Without judgment.
Without having to find the right answer.
Because sometimes there isn't a right answer.
And that's okay.
It's about being comfortable with not knowing.
Which is really hard in a world where everyone seems to have all the answers.
It is, and this Poopoo Peepee document, it's reminding us to question everything.
To be skeptical.
To not just accept things at face value.
Yeah, and that's a really important skill to have these days.
It is. It's about being a critical thinker.
Being able to sift through all the noise.
And find your own truth.
And you know, this whole idea of embracing the absurd, it makes me think about creative problem solving.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Well, this document, it's like a blank canvas.
Okay.
It doesn't have any inherent meaning, so we're free to project our own interpretations onto it.
It's like a Rorschach test for the mind.
Exactly.
You see what you want to see.
And that can lead to some really interesting insights.
It can unlock our creativity.
Because we're not limited by any preconceived notions.
We're free to think outside the box.
So instead of seeing absurdity as something to be avoided,
yeah,
we can see it as an opportunity.
An opportunity to play.
To experiment.
To be innovative.
And you know, this ties back to the importance of curiosity.
Ah, yes, curiosity.
That willingness to explore the unknown.
To ask questions.
And to be open to new ways of seeing the world.
And isn't it amazing that we started with just Poopoo Peepee?
It is. It's been quite a journey.
A journey through evolution and critical thinking and creativity.
All thanks to a document full of nonsense.
It just goes to show that sometimes the most profound insights come from the most unexpected places.
And that's what makes learning so exciting.
You never know where you'll end up.
So how can our listeners take these ideas and apply them to their own lives?
That's a great question, and one that I think we should definitely explore.
It's been really interesting talking about all this, like, you know, big picture stuff.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for our listener? Like, what can they actually do?
Well, it's one thing to talk about the theory.
Yeah.
But we need to put it into practice.
Exactly. So, like, how can our listener take these ideas about absurdity and curiosity and actually apply them to their lives?
I think it starts with just being more playful.
Playful.
Yeah, like remembering to have fun.
Okay.
To be open to new experiences.
Yeah, like we get so stuck in our routines.
We do.
That we forget to just, like, try new things.
And see the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier about taking a different route to work.
Exactly.
Or trying a new hobby.
Or even just like paying attention to the little things.
Yeah, like the things we usually just ignore.
Right.
Because we're so busy.
It's about breaking out of those habits.
And allowing yourself to be surprised.
by the world around you.
And also, I think it's important to be skeptical.
Skeptical.
Yeah, like not just believing everything you hear.
Especially these days.
With all the information overload.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, so how do we know what to trust?
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
About critical thinking.
Right? Like questioning your sources.
Okay.
Considering different perspectives.
And not being afraid to say.
I don't know.
Yeah, or I need more information.
It's okay to not have all the answers.
Yeah, and I think this Poopoo Peepee document, it kind of reminds us of that.
It does, because it's like this big question mark.
Yeah.
And it's okay that we don't have a definitive answer.
And maybe that's the point.
Maybe.
Like maybe it's teaching us to be more comfortable.
With ambiguity.
Yeah.
With uncertainty.
And that's actually a really valuable skill.
It is, especially in today's world.
So the next time you encounter something that seems absurd,
or nonsensical,
yeah, don't just dismiss it.
take a moment to consider it.
Ask yourself, what if?
What if there's something here that I'm not seeing?
What if this is actually an opportunity to learn something?
Or to see things in a new way.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
And you might even have some fun along the way.
Yeah, because sometimes the best discoveries
are the ones we least expect.
So to wrap things up, I think the big takeaway here is that it's okay to embrace the absurd.
It is.
To be curious.
To question everything.
And to never stop exploring.
The world is full of surprises.
It is. And sometimes the most meaningless things can actually be the most meaningful. I like that. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, keep those minds open and those imaginations firing